appears to be anti-union. What can you specifically do when elected to improve this situation? You know that unions have been on decline. We're still strong in New York State, but what can you do to help get unions back on track? And this goes to Colleen.
Thanks. Well, first and foremost, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, the piece of legislation that they're negotiating right now is something I would not be in support of. I mean, we saw what NAFTA did to this country, and if we continue to go in that direction, we will see, many of the jobs here in this region continue to disappear, and we cannot have. And so that is something that I will work very hard to fight against, to make sure that it does not affect our hardworking families, our hardworking people, our brothers and sisters of labor. That's something specifically that I think that we can do to make sure that we're fighting strong and we're being representing people of this district who have made this country great for years and years and years, standing with our union brothers and sisters. I was just down on the picket line of the Verizon strike just yesterday. I've been there 3 times. I went to a couple of the events that they've had, and making sure to let our folks know that we stand with them, we support them, and once I'm elected to Congress, I will continue to fight hard to make sure that our jobs aren't outsourced, to make sure that our corporations aren't reducing benefits, reducing anything that they can to take away the rights of union workers. And I will work hard to make sure that if folks want to unionize, that they're not doing anything to discourage hardworking people from becoming union members.
Okay, same question for Eric.
Yes. Again, I'll mention the organization I started, co-founded, is located at the AFL-CIO in Washington, D.C. They provide us in-kind space as part and connected to Alliance for Retired Americans. We know that when unions thrive, as we say, the middle class thrives. We can look at what's happened when they began pulling apart unions in this country. If teachers don't have the ability to do collective bargaining, the teachers' unions will be pulled apart. Public employee unions are one of the groups that still have political power because they have resources to put to encourage candidates to do things. We've lost more than that. It's a form of disrespect that we have. What Verizon is doing, trying to ship jobs away, tell workers that they're going to have to relocate, that's not family policy. That's not caring about a community. So all of this is tied up. Absolutely have to be supporting occupational safety laws again, have to be supporting rights and encouraging labor to organize. Personally, I look forward to seeing care workers, long-term care, people who give care to our disabled kids, our disabled old middle, that needs to be unionized. I'd be extremely supportive of it. We need to educate young people about how unions are part of their life. They don't understand this. And so obviously we oppose the attempts to pull it apart, but we're aware of it. They are systematically pulling it apart. We need to build unions again.
Thank you very much, Steve. Same question.
Yeah, thanks, Bill. I too have been on that Verizon picket line, and it's interesting because the CEO of Verizon came here to Syracuse to talk with the folks on the picket line, and he said, "Well, what's the problem? What's the problem?" And they said, "Jobs overseas." And he said, "Oh, no, we're not doing that with Verizon. I mean, one of the subsidiaries we're doing that, but not with Verizon." They go, "Have you called your own service lately?" He, the CEO, was not aware that that corporation is shipping jobs overseas every day. That night, I went home and I contacted Verizon online for a problem just to see who would come to my help, right? Who was going to be the service person on the other end? India. I even said, "Hey, yeah, you're a real nice guy. Where are you, by the way?" "Oh, I'm in India." "Oh, you're taking jobs from Americans." Well, that didn't go over too well. But I took a picture of my screen on my computer and I put it online in support of the Verizon workers. And you know what's interesting about that is they ship these jobs overseas. They are making record profits. You hear Bernie Sanders say that all the time. Corporations are making record profits. He's right. You know how much they made, Verizon that is, in profit alone, just profit. In the first 3 months of this year, 3 months, $4.4 billion with a B, dollars. But yet they have to ship jobs to India? That doesn't make sense. But let's talk about unions for a minute. I don't know if there's a way to make unions popular. That was the call of the question. But I'll tell you what, there are things we need to do to protect unions. Without unions, corporations have reign over the entire political process. We need to do several things. Number one, we need to oppose proposed legislation, which I've referred to earlier as right to work, that would allow people in union shops not to pay dues. We need to oppose that at every turn. Number two, we need to protect the right to work, and we need to strike that. We need to protect the right to organize, and we need to make it easier to organize. We need to make it easier to vote, not harder. And you know what? Not only do we need to protect the right to organize, we need to expand it. We need to expand it. You know, when I was at Cortland State, I read a book called The Jungle by Upton Sinclair. It affected me, okay? And many of you have probably read it. It's a very popular book. And it talks about the meat factories in Chicago during the turn of the century. It talked about the days where people didn't have a 40-hour work week, where they lived in corporate housing that was squalor, where they didn't get one day off a week, they had to work 7 days a week, right? That's what started unions. But you know what? There are still people working like that today. They're called farm workers. As we sit here right now, there are workers in this state who work 7 days a week. They get no overtime. They live in squalor. And they are not protected by federal and state laws that protect you and me. There's legislation on the table right now that would allow them the right to organize in this state. Farm Workers Fair Labor Protection Act. I ask that each of you take a look at that and support it. There will be a march here in Syracuse. Let me get the date. I think it's on May 26th, in support of that legislation. These folks are people too, and they deserve the right to organize and to fight for their rights. So, not only do we need to protect the current rights to organize, but we need to expand them, because it's just, once again, basic, fundamental fairness.
Thank you very much, Steve. At this point, it's 11 o'clock. We usually